Hello and welcome to Quarter Scale Racing 101. In this video we will be talking about the venerable Zenoah G230RC. This is the heart and soul of the RC quarter scale racing community. The Zenoah G230RC is a spec engine. It's spec'd out via the QSAC rules. It is intended to be a stock engine. It is not allowed to be modified in any way, shape, or form. You are not allowed to open these up and blueprint them. There is no material added or removed. There's no porting, no balancing allowed, no squish adjustments. We do not use tuned ported pipes. These engines produce enough horsepower to keep the cars competitive and fun. With that said, let's have a look. This engine is a 23cc 2-stroke engine. When you buy these things, right now it's 2019. I believe the average retail cost is about $250. They come with a stock muffler, which is spec'd. We do not swap the mufflers out for tuned pipes. We actually run the stock muffler. We've got to keep the pull starter on it. And they come with it's a clutch housing with a 2-shoe clutch. The clutch is also spec'd. However, there is a rule that does allow, I believe, the spring to be changed out for certain classes. So double check the rule set and make sure that's still true. With that said, this engine does come with a large 15 centimeter carburetor. That carburetor is not QSAC legal. We actually have to replace that with a $50 Walbro 194 carburetor. The Walbro 194 carburetor is the spec carburetor for limited sportsman, ECM, sprint car, and Grand National, according to QSAC rules. These are roughly $50, I believe. And beside the carburetor, you're also going to need a restrictor plate. QSAC rules mandate that we run a restrictor plate in between the carburetor and the engine itself. We run 2 different types of restrictor plates depending on the class. The red plate, as seen here, is an 8.5 millimeter diameter hole. It is smaller than the blue plate, which the blue plate is a 10.5 millimeter diameter ventry hole. The smaller of the 2 restrictor plates, the red plate, is designated for limited sportsman classes, while the blue plate is allowed for truck, Grand National, ECM classes. Being that this video is intended for the start of the novice, we'll go ahead and stick with the sportsman, the red restrictor plate. Along with that red restrictor plate, one other thing you're going to need to meet sportsman or limited sportsman tech rules, you're going to need a Sportsman Cup air filter adapter. Along with the restrictor plate, you will need 2 gaskets. These gaskets, the white nylon gaskets, come with the restrictor plate. Oh, by the way, this restrictor is actually a phonetic block restrictor, while there are just flat aluminum restrictor plates that would squeeze in between the original phonetic block and the new restrictor plate. This one here is nice and thick and chunky. This acts as a phonetic block along with the restrictor. So when you receive this one, it does come with 2 white nylon materialed gaskets. Most of the racers actually have a little more confidence in these blue-greenish paper gaskets. I'm not sure exactly if they are paper or not. These gaskets you can get from QS Components. The white ones do come with a phonetic block kit. The limited Sportsman cup, the air filter adapter cup, goes on between the air filter and the carburetor itself. It is aluminum machined. I believe it is 1 3/4 across diameter on the inside with 0.60 diameter on the inside plate. There's a groove milled into the back side of it. That's intended for an O-ring. This O-ring sits in, and this presses up against the carb body, making it an airtight seal. Okay, so let's go ahead and put everything together. You're going to need, again, the engine. You'll need your restrictor plate. This one is the manifold phonetic block style. You will have 2 gaskets, whether they're the white nylon or the blue-green paper style. You're going to use either style, but not both. You're going to need the hardware that comes with your kit, and you're going to need a Sportsman cup, and you will need the Walbro 194 carburetor, along with the long screws that tie the Sportsman cup to the carburetor. So you start off by grabbing this square gasket. Make sure that the holes correspond to the intake port, and then you get the phonetic block. Again, make sure you've got the holes lined up correctly, and you have your screws. The screws are caps head screw. There is a lock washer that goes on first, and then you've got a small flat washer that goes on next, and you go ahead and hit the corners. You will need a 4mm Allen, so making sure these are tight. Next, grab the Ninja Star looking gasket. Again, make sure that the holes correspond to each other. Your Walbro 194 carburetor has a rubber O-ring which goes towards the air filter. The other side has a smaller looking hole with a flat face. That is what attaches to the manifold. So you line him up, and then your Sportsman cup, you'll take these 4mm bolts, get everything lined up. You will be using your 4mm Allen for these. When it comes to air filters, you've got several options. You've got TNG makes an air filter, K&N makes air filters, and Unifilter. They all have filters. There's all kinds of options out there. If you look at it, you have roughly a 50mm outside diameter, which translates to almost 2 inches, 1.953 inch outside diameter. A thing to note, you want to replace the spark plug that comes with the engine originally. It's fine to use it for breaking in the engine on the bench, but it's highly recommended that for actually running it on your car with the radio, you use a resistor type spark plug. How do you know which ones are resistor type spark plugs? It's usually encoded in the part number. The R here, the CR, designates that it is a resistor type. The resistor type spark plugs help eliminate radio noise that causes interferences with your radio, which is obviously not a good thing. So you highly suggest you would use a resistor type. You saw NJK happens to be a very popular spark plug for these engines. These are $3-4 somewhere around there. There is a higher end one that uses iridium, and they're $11-12. It's up to you which one you choose. I haven't had any trouble with these. Other racers swear by the iridium. Up to you. How do these things actually mount to the frame? Well, depends on the frame manufacturer. On the TNTs, they actually mount onto the clutch bell housing with these 4 bolts, and that's what holds it on, and it's actually a very sturdy way of holding on the engine. Some other manufacturers have a lay down, and when I mean lay down, normally you have the vertical position, right, this being the bottom of the chassis, and then they have what they call the lay down position, where these things are in this direction. Bottom frame rails run along the floor here, so the air filters pointed up. When they do that, they end up using some of these screws. I've noticed they're not as stout. I've seen more of these crankcases crack around the webbing with that style of mounting option. I've seen it on multiple occasions, where I have yet to see the clutch bell housing style of mount actually crack any of the motor housings. So, food for thought. Also, be aware there are actually several versions of the G30. Also, be aware there are several versions of the G230RC. The red cap is the latest generation. There are a black cap, which I think are a little older generation. Both are perfectly legal to run. Both of them are perfectly similar in performance. Talk to your local racers, see what they've got to say about it. Know that you're not allowed to mix and match parts from various different versions.